Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com. Welcome to another episode of Developer Diaries, where I talk about our rules development for Ravish Star, but also rules development in general. So if you are a avid game developer or a wannabe game developer, then let's have a discussion. Let's talk about those things that we always want to talk about, that we fight over, about what is best in miniature wargaming. Now, in the first episode, I talked about activation systems, which activation system is best. I go, you go, alternate activation, dice pulling, and its many, many variations. So if you want to watch that video, go back and watch episode number 1. I'm looking for your feedback on all of these, so feel free to pause the video at any point and leave a comment below. And then, of course, you can keep leaving comments below. Just reply to your own comments, so we kind of have like a little thread there. I promise to read all of them. I won't reply to most of them. I am going to read, though, and have it influence the decisions I make for Ravish Star, and also just future discussions as well. So today, I want to talk about dice. Dice obviously are a central part of the games that we play. And yet we find that they come in so many different forms and usages. So our favorite, or I mean not favorite, but most popular games typically use 6-sided dice. We have that for Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, and many other games. And so d6s, of course, have gained in popularity because when I was younger, and we had other games like role-playing games. Those used all sorts: d20s, d10s, d12s, d8s, d6s, d4s, even sometimes d100s. And if you're not familiar with the terminology, I'm going to pretend everybody here is brand new. When I say a d6, I mean a 6-sided die. So it's the notation is a d, like for die or dice, followed by the number of sides that are on it. So a d10 would be a 10-sided dice, d12, 12-sided dice, d20, 20-sided dice, and so on and so forth. So we're using 6-sided dice for a lot of the games that we play. But what is best? So we, for Ravish Star, have decided to go with a d10. There's a few reasons, the train of thought behind that. The original thought, which was not my own, it's something that that Dave and the guys over at Lazy Squire is, because they like the idea that you can calculate the percentages really easily in your mind. So, for example, if I said you need a 5+ on a d12, you have to stop for a second and be like, okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4 are misses. So 5+ would be 8 out of 12. That would be 2/3 of the time. Okay, so it's a 2/3 chance, which is a 66.7%, right? That's not a hard calculation, but a 6+ would all of a sudden be, no, that's 7 out of 12. Okay, that's a little bit more. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is, but I know it's better. On a d6, you get weird numbers as well, but they're a little easier to calculate. On a 4+, that's 50%. 5+, that is a 1 in 3 chance. And 6+ is a 1 in 6 chance, of course. And so d10, it's all in 10 percentages. And we love 10s because we developed 10 fingers and 10 toes. So our entire number system is based around 10s. It doesn't have to be, but it is. And so we love 10s. So if I said you need 8 or higher on a d10, it's like, well, 8, 9, 10. That's 3 out of 10 possibilities. That's 30%. It's still not really fast, though, to calculate. So I actually don't really care about the fact that if you use a d10, you can calculate the percentage faster. I don't care. If I actually had total control, I probably would have gone with d12s. But at this point, it's arbitrary. The reason that we went with something not a d6 was so that you had more granularity in the modifiers to the dice. So in games like Warhammer 40k, when you use a d6, all of a sudden you go from a 4+ to a 3+. It is a much more dramatic jump than if it was a d10. So going from a 4+ to 3+ with a d6 is going from a 50% chance to a 66.67% chance. So it's roughly a 17 percentile increase, percentile, not percentage, percentile increase. When you go from a whatever number to the next number up in a d10, it's only a 10 percentile difference. So your odds of succeeding or failing are only modified by a small amount when you're plussing or subtracting 1 from what you need or what you roll. And so that's nicer because what that does is it allows you to have, first off, more modifiers, which I think is a good thing. So like if you're firing at a unit and they're in light cover and they're at longer range, now you can actually have stacking modifiers. Oh, and they've got some sort of stealth rule that gives another -1. Well, Games Workshop has said, well, you know, we just won't let dice get modified more than 1 either way. I think that's a mistake, by the way, but that's fine. It's their own rules design, so we can all have our opinions on that. And so what Games Workshop does to make up for that is they have you hit, and then you have to roll to wound. So you actually have 2 rolls. So it's not really a d6 system. It's almost it's not a 2d6 system, but you just have to roll it multiple times. And then the opponent usually has a chance to negate the attack with some sort of saving throw on a d6 as well. And sometimes even after that, another negation, such as feel no pain or something similar to that. And on top of that, in games like Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar, more 40k than Age of Sigmar, you have lots and lots of rerolls. And so I actually think that is a poor design. And no offense to the rules designers over at Games Workshop, but I don't like all the rerolls in the game. I don't like... It would be okay if it was a small scale game and you're only rolling a handful of dice. But we're rolling buckets of dice here. We're rolling 20 dice, 30 dice, sometimes 40 dice or even more. And so then you're rolling that and saying, now pick out all the fails and re-roll them, or pick out the ones and re-roll them. And then you got to pick up all the successes and roll to wound. And sometimes you have a re-roll there too. Not as often, but sometimes. And then you look through those and then your opponent decides, okay, now I have a save. And then I'm going to pick those up, and now I have a feel no pain. It can actually, and that's not an extreme situation. That actually comes up quite a bit, that you're rolling and then rolling and then rolling and rolling. The other thing I find with that is that as soon as you incorporate things like re-rolls or the ability to spend resources to get those re-rolls on a large-scale game, it takes away some of the aspect of chance. And it also takes away some of those fun moments. Like if I'm looking at my opponent, I just hit him with a really powerful weapon, and he gets to roll a d6, and he has to roll a 2+, let's say, because he's got a really good save. And he rolls that 1. I no longer can cheer if I know he can use a resource to re-roll it. So I have to wait. And so it becomes, first off, way less likely to have those spiked moments. And it kind of removes some of the emotional impact. Now, you can disagree with me. In fact, if you do, please tell me in the comments below, because I know this is all very subjective. In fact, it's so subjective, but it's influenced me so much that Ravaged Star, the game, and you can hold me to this, will never have a reroll. Never. Even though technically you're not going to be rolling as many dice as often, and I could have rerolls, and it doesn't ruin the game or anything. I just dislike them so much now because of how much I played the games that I love. I love 40k and I love Age of Sigmar, but I'm so tired of rerolls. Now, if I play a game like MCP, Marvel Crisis Protocol, where you're rolling 8-sided dice with different symbols on them, and we'll talk about that in a second, and then there's a thing that lets you reroll this and a thing that lets you change these, I'm all for that, because you're only rolling a few dice, and it's all about like having these cool different effects on it. But in that game, you only have a handful of models on each side, and so you can spend more time in things like that. But in larger scale games, and Ravaged Star is going to be a larger scale game by default, I want to keep the game moving quickly. And so by having d10s, we don't have to have you roll them more than once. You can just roll once for the hit and then once for defense. And I can just have more modifiers going along. You're in cover. That's the same type of modifiers if you're at long range or if you have stealth. Although there are other things that can modify your defense rather than your hitting. So I have 2 places to have that granularity, and I have d10s, so I have a lot more granularity. So that actually gives me a lot more options for giving that variety in the game without having the tons of dice rolls over and over and over again. So then we get to special dice. Now this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I don't like them. I find that the game, and it's not that the games that use them aren't good. I just don't like them. I find that a lot of games are starting to come out, or have been coming out with for the past few years, their own version of dice. So it's an 8-sided die, but it's got different symbols on it. Star Wars Legion does this. Marvel Crisis Protocol does this. A lot of the Fantasy Flight games did, like Star Wars X-Wing and all of that. And those ones, I remember not feeling, it was like, that was fine, whatever. You kind of got used to it, because you got an 8-sided die, and like on some of the sides were a single little explosion marker to show that it's one hit. But then 1 or 2 of the sides would have like one that was hollowed out, that's supposed to be a critical hit. But then you get another side that has like another symbol on it, which means something else. And then sometimes another one. So like in Marvel Crisis Protocol, I think there's like 4 different types of symbols on the same die. And that made it a little harder for me to understand the game and kind of get into it. And then you get like Star Wars Legion, which has different colored dice, and the color of the die determines how good it is. And I don't remember, it's red, white, and black. I don't remember which one's the best. I want to say it goes from white to red to black, but it might be like white is the worst and black is the best. See, I don't even remember. And I've played the game now a couple of times, and I still don't remember which die is the best. And that's kind of my point, is that if I say in Ravaged Star, defense is like a 4+, so you have to roll 4 or higher. And if I say this thing has a 7+ defense and this thing has a 4+ defense, you can know pretty much nothing else about the game, but you know the thing with the 4+ defense is going to do better. If I said this thing has a 3 red defense and this one has a 2 white defense, and you go, which one's better? And it's like, well, that depends on the color. Maybe the 2 white is better than the 3 red. Or maybe it's far worse, or whatever it happens to be. So I think it kind of, It makes it a little harder to get into the game. Now, that's a small complaint because, you know, you can learn anything you want to learn. Chess is not an easy game to really, really master, but it's not hard to learn. And so, you know, there's a bit of back and forth there. So, and just how simple should a game be and still appeal to somebody who's been playing it for a little longer. So there's a lot of, once again, you have your thoughts on all of this, you leave them below. But then I played games, and I'm not meaning any offense to any of the developers if you happen to be watching this. It's more my thoughts, it's very subjective. But having said that, played games like Fallout, Wasteland Warfare, and Skyrim, and they have d20s. But the d20 has nothing to do with a d20, really. It's got like 3 1s and a couple 2s and a couple 3s and a couple 4s. And then it's got a few different fancy symbols. And some of the numbers have symbols on it. Like this one has like a potion, and this one has an exclamation mark, and this one has an asterisk, and this one has, I don't even remember what they all had. And that's so that when you roll the die, it's like you need to roll a certain number. Oh, and sometimes you'll roll green dice with it. That'll modify the number. And then you might roll red dice and other dice for the amount of damage you're going to do. But you got this thing. And I remember doing a demo for it, and I'm like, this is so cool, but I hate the dice. I really, because I'm not getting it really quickly. And if I can't sit down in a demo game and half an hour later walk away feeling like I have a basic understanding of the game, then to me, that's a flaw. There's something there that's just trying to be unique for the sake of being unique. And I think that's kind of one of my points, is that when people try, and this happens in video games, this happens in movies, and when you try to be unique for the sense of being unique, innovation for the sense of innovation is not always a good idea. Now, I'm happy for other people to do it because they might accidentally stumble across a really cool idea, which we'll talk about maybe in another video. Because Star Wars Legion, as much as I say I don't like their dice, their movement system, that inspired the movement system for Ravaged Star. We'll talk about that in another video, though. And so I can knock these games all I like, but there's aspects of a lot of these games that I absolutely love, and I've borrowed ideas from all. I'm not afraid to say it at all. Ravaged Star, the war game, borrows heavily from a lot of other games that I've played and I love, and it's almost like a Frankenstein monster of all these different games. And I'm okay to say that, because to me, if you want to come up with a good video game, look at the video games that came out before that did really well, that are really good, and try to analyze them for why they were really good. Some of them it's because the story was really good. Some of them the mechanics are just good. I still remember Half-Life. The original Half-Life, I think, was the first game to come out with the idea that instead of moving around in a first-person shooter by using the arrow keys and then like strafing with Alt and Control, I still remember playing Duke Nukem 3D that way, that they're like, no, use the mouse to look around, and WASD, move forward, move back, strafe, and strafe. And I remember it being really hard to get used to that at first, but then once I got used to it, I'm like, this is a superior way to move. And now it's just part of video games. Nobody says, Call of Duty uses the Half-Life movement or mouse and keyboard kind of thing. They just call it the mouse and keyboard thing. It's become so ubiquitous with first-person shooters and many other games that you don't even remember. And once again, I might be getting my history wrong, but I seem to remember that Half-Life 1, the very first one, was the first to do that. You can correct me in the comments below. Either way, somebody was the first to make the switch from the clunky keyboard using the arrow keys and stuff in your left hand to kind of do all your interactions to mouse and keyboard. And so you get aspects of mechanics of games that are so good that you should just use them. I think that the Star Wars Legion movement system, which I'll talk about in another video, should be used pretty much in every game out there. I think it's that good. It's that awesome in what they've come up with. But, that's my opinion and my subjective view of it. And obviously I think that because I'm putting it in Ravaged Star. So dice, yeah. Let's get back to the actual subject matter here. What dice are best? Should you be using d6s? Should you be using d10s, d12s, d4s, d20s? Percentile dice. There are good role-playing systems out there that use percentile instead of d20s. So D&D uses d20s, but like games like Dark Heresy use a D100 system, or the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay uses the D100 system. But then you get the newer games that are using a D6 system where you roll a pool of D6s and you got to get a certain number of successes. The choices are almost endless in how you can combine all of these things. So my approach for Ravaged Star is that my goal in this game has been for it to be easy to learn. And so it shouldn't have confusing things like weird dice that you don't know what they do. You roll 3 black dice and look for these pips. Okay. Oh, look at that. I got 4 pips. Was that good? I don't know if that was good, but I'm happy I got them. It's like, no, it's easy. You need a 4+ and a D10. I'll roll 5 of them. Oh, look, you got 3 of them. Okay, 3 hits. Nice and easy. Oh, you're hitting light cover, so -1 to that. So you need 5+ instead. Nice and easy. Okay, so piece of cake. And Yeah, and I want it to be fast and easy to learn. So fast, removing things like rerolls, only rolling a certain number of dice. That's been an important one too. I don't want you to be rolling 40, 50, 60 dice. So it's going to be, you're on average rolling 10 dice, but sometimes as high as 20. And don't worry, in our actual game that we're coming out with, the d20s come in some of the bigger box sets. So it'll come with the d20s or d10s, sorry, that you need to play. And we'll sell them on the MiniWarGaming Forge too, so that you have a nice, easy place to get them that's not too expensive. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think? Did I do them enough time for this video? Let's check. Oh yeah, we're good. We're 15 minutes in here. So I have definitely talked and rambled enough about this in particular. So I want to know your thoughts on this whole subject matter. What dice are best? Or if you know that that's a fallacy to even ask that question, what dice are best in certain situations? Leave a comment below. I want to hear it. Also, GameFound, our campaign on GameFound for Ravish Star, the tabletop game, is going to be coming out soon, if it hasn't already. I'm not quite sure when I'm posting all these videos. All the links will be below. I got lots of links below for you to the GameFound campaign, where if you back during the campaign, if you follow before the campaign and then back, you get a free miniature. So please help support us there, because this thing is big for us. It's something that we really have poured a lot of our heart and soul and money into. So we're really hoping to see, I hope that people like it. You can also, I have links there to our playtest battle reports and to our Discord, where you can discuss rules. And also, even on the Discord server has the alpha rules, so you can download them and play them yourself, or just read through them and give me your feedback. I'd love to hear it. Like I said, I'm going to read every last bit of feedback for the next while. I won't respond to all of it, but I will read it and digest it and try to have it influence me. So this is a community-driven war game for sure. Like, obviously, I'm the driving force behind it, but I've already incorporated tons of ideas from people here at MiniWarGaming and also from the community. So be part of that. Links below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Developer Diaries. This is Matthew from MiniWarGaming. Happy wargaming.